Right. Welcome to School Facilities and Operations. I'm Burke Jones. I'm the host. And this show really, we do two different kinds of shows here. The first one is we have conversations with trade partners that are those folks out there supplying labor and expertise that we need as a school district to get projects done. And we really have them educate us on what they're specialists at. And then the other kind is with other directors of facilities, directors of operations, and K-12 facilities across the nation. And today, that's what we're doing on this episode. So I have Josh Schaffer. He's the director of facilities at the City of St. Charles School District, which, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of a suburb of St. Louis, right?
Yeah, it's just a few miles outside of St. Louis, but we're kind of tucked neatly in between St. Louis and Wentzville, northern part of St. Charles there.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us. So, give us a little background on your work history to date, and then throw something in there that we can't read about on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. My work history. So leaving high school, I was one of those interesting individuals that realized a four-year university wasn't necessarily for me. And my father told me that I probably need to stick with building trades or something like that. I was always the type that never really liked sitting down and always wanted to be doing something with my hands. So I found that HVAC was probably the best fit for me. Went to trade school, got my degree there, my HVAC certificate, and did HVAC installs and service for close to 16 years at various places, other school districts. And one day I was doing some work at St. Louis University where I was employed as a technician, and there was a pretty bad leak in one of the art buildings over there with priceless portraits and paintings in it. And the director called me and asked if I could come give them a hand. I was on nights that night, and I ran over there even though it was outside of my wheelhouse. I came up with a plan to capture all the water that was coming in through a roof leak after a heavy rain, and saved all of the portraits and saved a massive insurance claim. And I got a phone call from that same director a few days later and asked if I'd be interested in applying for his position for HVAC supervisor, which kind of oversaw most of the campus, the university's HVAC. So fast forward there, I seemed to fit in and seemed to fit the role decent, and grasped, embraced and grasped the leadership stuff. And they were talking about doing some layoffs and bringing in some consultants and things like that. And that really kind of made me nervous. And I received a phone call from a friend right around that same time who was the HR manager for a special school district where I was previously employed prior to St. Louis University. And they explained to me, hey, you might want to go give Parkway a look. I know they're hiring a facilities manager over there. So I did that, sat down and had a cup of coffee with the director there. And by a cup of coffee, I mean, an interview. They seemed to like me, and I seemed to kind of hit it off. There was some very good back and forth in that meeting. I felt that meeting went really well. I got a second interview, and I got a phone call, maybe 3 or 4 days later, offering me the position. Parkway was an interesting pill to swallow, and I mean that with all respect to the district. But it was a learning curve, to say the least. There's 33 buildings there. There's probably 4 million square feet under roof and assets and buildings. I had probably 50 to 55 total employees under my leadership at any given time, from skilled crafts to plumbing, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and general maintenance workers, painters. That pretty much ran the whole gamut. Roofers. Did I think a fairly good job there. And then one day, out of the clear blue, I was at my desk doing some emailing, and I got a phone call from the former CFO of this district, who I guess he realized that this position was opening up because the person prior to me left to go to another district. And the story goes, as I was told, that he reached out to our MSPMA group, the executive director of the MSPMA group, and said, "Yeah, you need to call that Josh guy. He seems to be getting doing the right things and making all the right moves. So you may want to give him a call." So it was a call out of the clear blue from the CFO, Dr. Charles Brazil, who's now retired. Great, great individual. I hold him in the highest regard. He really gave me an opportunity here, and I'm very, very pleased with that opportunity, and I'm trying to make the most of it. But to make a long story short, I came in and had an interview with those guys here at St. Charles, and here I am. So one of the first things I did in September of 2019 when I got here was, all right, I have like a 5-year master plan, things we're going to talk about, all the great things we're going to accomplish around here. We're going to change the culture. We're going to do all the, all these great ideas of people who have vision like you or I, things we want to get done. September, it was mid-September. I was just getting my feet wet and just kind of learning the people. And then by December, there's winter break, Christmas break. We all go home we don't come back until January. Well, by March, all hell broke loose and COVID hit. So here I am, a new director, having really no idea what the heck to do as a director. I'm learning the job and learning my peers and my teammates around here, and the script went completely out the window. I mean, we were all on the defense then. It was, oh my God, what do we do now? Do we need to keep people employed? What are we going to do with our workers and our staff? And so the coaching script went completely out the window, and it was just kind of react to whatever was going on at that time. And man, do you want to talk about trial by fire? It was definitely interesting, and the old saying, kind of being fed by a fire hose. It was all that and then some.
I know exactly how you feel. So before I took this job, I was an architect for 26 years. And so I came into the district in October of 2019. I'd never been a director of anything, like let alone an entire school district. And so I was, 6 months in and COVID hit. And yeah, it was a crazy time.
It was definitely
And
crazy.
in some ways, I think it helped that I was brand new because I didn't know a lot of the sacred cows and who
Mhm.
normally does what and all of that. I was just like, we got to get this done and
Yeah.
go do it.
Sometimes it's better to not know what you don't know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, one of the things I was the most proud of was, and still am very proud of, is we decided, this school district, I had an enormous amount of support from my leadership here, the superintendent and the CFO and the board. But one of the things that we decided to do, and call it crazy, but we decided to go out for a bond issue in the middle of the pandemic. And there were a lot of people like, wow, should we do this right now? I just don't know if the timing's right. Like, well, we still have work to do around here, and there's a lot of things that this district needs to get accomplished. Waiting isn't going to help anything. Let's see what we can do. So we went out, we campaigned, we got it advertised and campaigned for it, and the April election, we passed at just shy of 80%.
April of what year?
April of 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. So I take that back. That was April of 21.
Okay.
21. So yeah, we went through a whole cycle there, but of planning. I take that, I was wrong there. But
Right.
yeah, we went through a whole cycle there of planning, and went through the October board meeting, the November board meeting, get it all approved. And so by April of 21, it was approved. And then we had some quick start projects that we had kind of in the hopper, that if this passed, we were ready to go. And we had LED projects, phase 1 LED lighting projects. Our football fields all received new turf, new LED lights in the stadiums, and we did a lot of really cool. Our quick start projects were a lot of really fun projects. There were athletics and things like that, so it was really neat.
So how big is your district? Like how many buildings do you have? And
Yeah, we have 15 total buildings. 13 of them are instructional, and 2 are more administrative buildings. Our Benton Elementary is our buildings that really neat. It was built in 1896. A lot of really cool infrastructure and historical characteristics to that building. And then this building that I'm out of is our operations center, and buses and my maintenance fleet all is outposted in this building, and we disperse from here. So 15 total buildings.
We're very similar in size. So we have 12 schools and then admin, operations, central kitchen, and transportation facility. So we're pretty close to the same size.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's got you really excited right now when you get out of bed in the morning to hit the office?
You know what? I have this filling station that I'm really excited about. We currently we supply our we have some filling station filling tank, fuel tanks out here on this property, and they're kind of spread out, and they're not really conducive to like efficient workflow. And I worked with my former CFO to come up with an idea that would increase worker efficiency, and you know how, how we can have more fuel on site, but also how can we have more security on site. So it was a really outside the box, I thought, really outside the box idea. But the plan is, and it's already been approved, I'm moving forward on it as we speak. The Hanson's Tree Service is outside right now tearing trees down off this hillside, so I can build a retaining wall into the hillside and place a 27-foot wide, 10,000 gallon fuel tank outside, which is the largest the EPA will allow me to have above ground. I'm really excited about that project. And the outside the box idea there was, well, if we allow St. Charles City Police Department to come in and use their badging system, which will work on our system. That was part of the planning process, making sure that the software will work on our badge software and their badge software. Well, then they don't have to go to the local service station here to fill up and pay full retail price for fuel. If we're buying it at 10,000 gallons per delivery, then we can buy into futures and a little bit more of a discounted rate. And the added benefit to that is that they can come in, scan their badge at our rear gate. The gate will open. They can come in here, scan their badge at our pumps. The pumps will turn on, and it will track every gallon that they use down to the 10th. So if Officer Jones comes in here at 2:30 in the morning when he's in the middle of his patrol and needs fuel, they'll tell us that he used 25.7 gallons of fuel.
Nice.
And we can track all of that digitally, which kind of gets rid of some of the paperwork, and it speeds up some of the efficiency of my warehouse manager, who keeps track of all of the fuel usage through the click of a button versus having to go through the old way and all the paperwork.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that because it's a full canopy, pumps, everything, and kind of get people out of the elements, and it'll be accessible from two sides now. Versus right now, if you need fuel, you have to get in line, and it's just an inefficient way of doing business.
Plus, you have police officers showing up at random times at your facility so that maybe it'll keep the criminals away.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Lincoln Elementary is getting a large HVAC upgrade and a kitchen upgrade. Blackhurst Elementary is another one of my elementary schools that's going to see a large scale renovation, a building addition, and a kitchen renovation starting in April of this coming year. Knoll Elementary, all paid through bond funds. Knoll Elementary is another elementary school that is getting an addition and a large FEMA structure attached to it. Very cool. So that's like for the precast concrete slabs that they set, and it has cabling running through them and missile test doors and everything else. So, I mean, it can take a 2x4 at 100 miles per hour and it just explodes, and the door stays intact, all backed up with generators and things like that. We have a lot of really cool things going on in this district, and the rebates that I'm getting through our utility company will eclipse about $1.5 million this time next year. So lots to do, lots to keep up with, lots to record, lots to submit, but it keeps me busy and it keeps the trains running on time here.
So we might, for our listeners that don't live in the Midwest, a FEMA shelter is basically a tornado shelter. It's all reinforced concrete. There's several ways you can build them, but essentially it's a hardened structure that can take, they call it a missile impact, but if you like shoot a 2x4 out of a cannon, it can stop that at some speed that would be equivalent to a tornado. And
there's some really interesting videos online. If for the listeners, you can go on YouTube and find it very easily, but just look up door uh, door FEMA structure missile test or something like that. And it will show a 2x4 getting launched out of a device at 100 miles per hour right at the mechanism at the strike plate, and it holds up just fine. And the 2x4 explodes into like spaghetti. It's crazy.
Yeah. So if you listen to episode one, part of that episode, there was a school that was got basically a glancing blow of a tornado right over the FEMA shelter, which was their gymnasium, and the facilities director at that time and some custodians were actually in the shelter when that hit happened.
Wow.
Walls moved, rain was pouring in, obviously since the roof got ripped off, but they were very happy to be in there.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit before, but you've done a lot of LED light replacements around your district. Were those like you didn't necessarily replace the whole ceiling, you just came in with a new fixture, or did you retrofit the fixture with like an LED kit?
Yeah. In this case, we took, I would say 90, probably 98, 99% of every fixture in the district and completely replaced it with an LED fixture. There was very little retrofitting going on, which I'm not against retrofitting, but in this case, I was happy to see all the old fixtures go away completely and come in with all new. And one of the added benefits that we did with the district that the teachers and staff seem to really, really like is that we had a dimming control to all the classrooms. Excuse me. Some of our teachers, they just don't like the bright lights beating down on them all day. And some of them want the ability to turn on the overhead projector or their smart board, and it was either lights off or lights fully on, which is a little bit distracting, or can be. And so this really gave them the ability to be able to dim everything down and provide a softer, warmer light, and be able to kind of adjust and flex to whatever conditions going on in that classroom at that moment. So it's really cool. And then the other piece of that is we have occupancy sensors in those classrooms as well, which is one of the things I noticed in this district when I started here. And it's no disrespect to anybody in the district, but when I started here, there didn't seem to be a conscious effort to just turn lights off when you left a space. I would come in the buildings at 5 a.m. and I would see gym lights on, which were the old metal halides, and you hear them humming and buzzing, and you can just hear the energy getting sucked through the building and the money just going out the window. And it just drove me crazy. So for me, I wanted to add that ability to all of our buildings, where and each classroom space has occupancy sensors in them. So with 30 minutes of no activity at all, they just shut off until they see activity.
Yeah, it's amazing how much that actually saves you. But what I've noticed is in one building, we replaced some classrooms with LED. And then you walk into like one that still has the old fluorescent fixtures, and you're like,
Yeah.
are all the lights on in here? Because it doesn't feel like all the lights are on, but
Right.
they are.
Yeah.
I mean, the impact that has to have on our students is huge,
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah,
what they're
this
learning.
district was like, this district was 2 generations behind in lighting. When I started here, there was a lot of the old, bigger T12 bulbs throughout the
Hmm.
district, and there was an entire generation of T8s that were missed. Not everywhere, but there was quite a bit of T12s still in the district. So when passing this bond issue and moving into what our quick start projects were, allowed us to basically skip an entire generation of lighting and go from T12 to everything's upgraded to LED now with dimming and ox sensors. It's really cool.
That's fascinating. So, how big was the bond issue? How much did they pass?
Yeah, so we passed that at $50 million. That was a $50 million bond issue. Not the biggest bond issue you'll see out there. Some of the larger school districts, I mean, they'll pass them in the hundreds of millions, but for a 15 building district, for the amount of footage we have, 50 million is enough to get some things done. And we've been very conscientious about how we spend that money, and as evidenced by the rebate money that we see back from our utility provider. So we sold the bond issue on being good stewards of our taxpayer money and taxpayer buildings. So
Right. You talk about the size of bond issues. I have a friend, and he's going to be on a guest on the show here in the next few weeks, but he works for a district. I think it's around the Dallas Fort Worth area. It's like one of the fastest growing districts in the nation. They add like, I may not have all the numbers right, but I think they add like 2,500 students a year.
Wow.
Okay. But
So
they're
growing
getting ready
district.
for one district. And so they're getting ready to go out with like a $1.8 billion bond issue. And their
Ah,
last bond aren't even paid off yet. Like the work isn't even finished on the last bond issue. But imagine added 2,500 kids a year. I mean, that's our elementary schools are like 300 students.
yeah.
I mean,
A
it's
$1 billion
crazy.
bond issue sounds exhausting.
And we have a whole department that does nothing but manage construction.
Yeah, I would imagine
So
so.
it's
So
a
I'm
different
I'm the
world.
owner's rep for all of our construction, and that sounds exhausting. And
Yeah.
knowing what I do and deal with in my district, that sounds like, yeah, you need a team of people with a growing district like that in Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah. So what's the most fun you think at your job? Like you get to get out in the schools and see kids and that kind of thing, or is there something
Yeah,
else that really
I really
takes
I
you
really
by?
enjoy I really enjoy getting out and doing athletics projects. Um, I grew up playing baseball and kind of fanatical about baseball. So I really enjoy getting out and seeing what our fields look like and investing my energy into those fields and kind of kind of washing that idea down through my team and making sure that those are like our marquee areas, right? Like these are the windows to our community. Everyone sees this. People
Right.
come here from other counties, other cities, other states. When they come here, these places should be standing tall. They should be pretty. People should be saying, "Oh my God, this was one of the prettiest ball fields I've ever seen. I've ever gotten to play for." And we're really, you can tell by the tone of my voice how excited I get about those. But we have a little baseball field over here at St. Charles West that we call Little Bush. It's a Little Bush Stadium. But we've done an all brick backstop over there. It's been capped netting. We've brought in crushed granite rock and we've laid it like 3 inches thick throughout all of our foul territories, our warning track. We have irrigation on all of our ball fields. We have
Nice.
Dura Edge soil, which is what they use at Busch Stadium. True Dura Edge soil, which is like a silt, sand, clay mixture that we laser leveled onto our infield and we drag it. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous facility. And we just this off season, 2-3 weeks ago, I was able to approve a project that I'm going to manage with our some of our athletics providers at Burke Jones Construction. But they're adding a double barrel bullpen on each side, the home and visitor side of
Oh,
the.
wow.
So it'll have a nice backstop back there, turf, artificial turf, um, mounds for the students, for the kids to come up and stand on and actually have increase that experience even more at that stadium. So yeah, we're excited about those and keeping up with our athletics around here. That's always a big deal.
Well, you're right, though. It's the front door to a lot of the community seeing what your district is
Yeah,
like.
it really
It's
is.
kind of the same thing. Like I harp on this all the time that I want our parking lots clean. I want it clean around the front doors. I want it well maintained because
Yes.
that impression when you're walking up to a school sets the tone for what people think the rest of the building is like.
Hmm.
Um, and it's hard with all the wind and everything we get here, but
Right.
yeah, I think front doors of buildings and athletic facilities are definitely noticed by the community more than any other.
They really are. They really are. And it's there are areas that not everybody goes in the buildings. Our
Right.
staff, our parents, our students, and some of our vendors, they go into our buildings, but really a lot of outsiders come to our athletics facilities, and we want that to be we want that to be a kind of our premier areas.
One thing I noticed looking at LinkedIn, it looks like you're pretty involved in the Missouri School Plant Managers Association.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So, do you have regional get-togethers or state? Is it always at a state level, or how do you guys set up there?
We do have a large state meeting annually. We do that at the Branson Promenade, kind of on the Branson Landing down there, and that's a large, large gathering. I mean, everybody comes to that one. We sold the event out last year. This
Wow.
past fall. There were vendors from all over there at the convention center. I mean, it was packed. It's a very, very big deal. I'm the St. Louis, the president for the regional sector of the MSPMA. So my umbrella kind of covers St. Louis, St. Charles County, St. Louis County, and we do regional gatherings here at a place called Ed Plus on Craig Road out in St. Louis, kind of Maryland Heights Town and Country area, Creve Coeur area, and yeah, well, we get together there probably quarterly. And matter of fact, my calendar for the next meeting is February 22nd, and we talk about really anything. So the February 22nd meeting is talking about insurance claims, remediation, environmental restoration, and that's going to be hosted by one of my vendors at First On Site, which is formerly Catco Restoration. And then our next quarterly meeting is April 26th, and that's on roofing products, warranties. Yeah, lots going on there.
Yeah, I can imagine like the big convention, but at least here in Kansas, we don't have those regional groups that meet. And I always wonder what you would do at those regional gatherings. So
Yeah,
that kind of,
so the regional gatherings are really, it's up to the obligation is on myself and a gentleman named Jeff Brooks. He is the director of facilities at Afton School District, which is in St. Louis. He and I are good buddies, and we do a lot of this stuff together. But he was the president. He's moved on to the president for the large group, whereas I'm still just the lowly guy out here doing the regional stuff. But it's that obligation is on us to set the agenda and set the tone on what things are like, what's topical. Things are safety, security. No one likes to talk about school shootings, but they're real. They're in our faces, and we have to be present. We can't be blind to those things. So we talk about
right.
just a little bit about everything. The large state meeting in Branson. Oh man, I mean, there's every vendor that you can possibly fathom at this event, and there is no shortage of things to learn there at all. Highly beneficial.
Maybe I'll have to head west one state or head east one state and join
Yeah,
you some.
yeah, for sure. For sure. We'd be happy to have you on. There's lots to learn there.
So, do you guys do all of your maintenance with your own staff pretty much? Like, do you have HVAC guys and electricians and locksmith, painter, all those kind of things?
We
And
do,
you do
we do.
that internally?
We have we're staffed for a few HVAC workers, an electrician, painter, plumber, several general maintenance workers, a dozens and dozens of custodians, and we do a lot of things in house. However, there's a lot to do with respect to HVAC and electrical work, and there are things that just to be honest, my workers just can't get to with all of our square footage, and there are times that I will farm out some of that work to kind of take some of that burden off of them so that they don't have to feel the anxiety of I can't get to all this. I'm never going to get caught up. I can't get my head above water. Now, to say that it's not a bailout, that if they're truly behind and they're really needing help because things are stacking up on them, that's great. But if we don't just call out outside help if we're mismanaging our time too, so that goes back to myself and the management staff here to make sure everybody's on the ball.
Right. So, are you over custodial also?
Yeah, I'm the head for this entire department, and
Okay.
they don't directly report to me because I manage capital and set goals and kind of drive the department. The facilities manager is their direct report and does the evaluations for that team or for that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like I have a supervisor of custodial and maintenance
Yeah,
that handles that side of it.
right.
So, yeah, I'm looking at we're making some big changes to our custodial program. So, do you guys? I'm going to ask you a very detailed question you may or may not know the answer to. But do you do zone cleaning or team cleaning? So
We
like, does
do.
one custodian clean like everything in one hallway, or do you have a
No, yeah,
team?
no, we have everything broken up into zones. Um, and I think that's just kind of the way, that's just the way things were when I started here, and there's been no real push to change that. I think people are kind of comfortable working in those zones. Um, but it's also been very hard to hire um, with the market.
Right.
The labor pool has been pretty much abysmal, and we've had a very difficult time getting people in here. So we've had to split zones and share zones among other people, and yeah, so maybe that's one of those things that we'll have to look at one of these days, is, doing group
Yeah,
cleaning versus zone cleaning.
we are piloting a program this year doing team cleaning in one of our buildings. And the system we're using is called OS1. Oops, sorry. It's called OS1. Um, but yeah, it's a very detailed team cleaning where you have different specialists that move through the building together and clean the entire building instead of just an individual person cleaning different zones.
Right.
We're about 6 weeks in. It's been a lot of work, but so far I really like what I see, and the custodians that are out there boots on the ground that seem to really be enjoying it as well, because they're not kind of like siloed off by themselves. It's a much more team feeling. Um, so it's been successful so far, but we still have some work to do to get it there.
What do you like? What do you not like about the team approach?
Um, I like the team. So the way we've set it up is that um, the our custodians every week they change jobs. So our system has a light duty specialist. So that's the person that like dusts, cleans desktops, that kind of thing, empties the trash, and then behind them comes the vacuum specialist. It's all protein backpack vacs. Um, and then we have a restroom specialist, and then what's called a utility specialist that does all the corridors and picks up the trash bags that have been left at a specific location and that kind of thing. I think that I like the fact that we have a consistent clean across the whole building now. When you zone clean, you might have a standout cleaner that does one zone, and then somebody who's just, not quite at the same level cleaning another zone. Where with this, it's consistent across the board. Since they move through as a team, um, you know what everybody's doing all the time because they follow each other. So you don't have anybody disappearing or anything like that.
Right.
Um, um, so I really like that. I think it's just professionalized our organization. Um, we have all new equipment that have very specific names and uses. Um, and honestly, we've seen the dirt load go down in the building. So when we started, we were emptying, and by the program, you're supposed to empty the vac filter like every 2 hours. And the first week, we were having to empty that every 20 to 30 minutes because it was
Oh
so
my
full.
goodness.
And we were vacuuming, like we were cleaning the building before, but we were using upright, vacuums. And um, now we're back to where we're emptying the bag every 2 hours, as we said. And I think there's a lot of ergonomics in this system that keep our employees safer. I mean, like healthier and
Sure.
safer. So it's good. I'm happy to talk to you more if you want, but it's a major undertaking. It'll probably take us 3 or 4 years to get all of our schools switched over to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm pretty excited about it at this point.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to cover off?
No, I think I've enjoyed the conversation so far. You allow me,
Yeah.
I'll talk your ear off all day. I can just go. So my wife
Well,
says
that's
I don't, my wife says I don't say enough at home. And I tell her, well, she does enough for both of us, so I don't need to say anything. But then you get me on hobbies and things that I like talking about, and I just won't shut up. So,
yeah. I just tell my wife I'm tired of talking by the time I get home. I talk
uh,
all day long.
yeah,
So,
I tell that to my wife. I don't, you don't say much. I'm like, well, I have to be on all day at work. I have to be on
uh-huh.
and answer questions and be professional and have that persona. Like, you're a leader. You have to do
Right.
these things. And by the time you get home, it's a little tiring from having to be, as I call it, on all day. So But
I think that's an
I signed
interesting thing
up.
about it that I didn't expect, but I really love because I like to lead.
Mhm.
But this is a great job. If you like to lead people and organizations, I think this is probably the best job in the world for that.
Absolutely, it is. I agree with that.
You
You
get,
deal with
at
so
least in
many
my district,
different personalities too.
yeah,
It's so different every day.
yeah. And I think just the level, at least in our my district, I mean, our leadership is kind of all involved in everybody else's stuff to a certain level. Like I know what the director of curriculum's doing to a certain level. Not that I
Mm.
understand much of what all the acronyms she uses, but we all kind of know what everybody's doing, and so that's fun to be at that level in a district
Yeah,
and be kind of have a real vision of where the district's going and what's happening inside of it and all of that.
absolutely.
So okay, well at the end I always do what's called rapid fire. So I got three questions for you.
Let's do it.
Um, the first one is what would your parents say that you do for a living?
What would my parents say that I do for a living?
Yeah, like your own parents that raised you.
Um, well, they would probably say I work for a school district and I'm running construction or something like that. If
There
I
you go.
had to ask.
Yeah. Well, my dad watches board meetings every time I have to present, so I think
Yeah,
he would give a pretty good answer. Um, do you use paper? Are you like a digital guy or a paper guy?
I'm odd. So I'm of that age group. I'm 41, so um, I'm still of that right on that cusp right there where things were still analog, but we were learning the digital age, right? Um, so I do a little bit of both. And just depends on kind of what I'm in the mood for. For like recording all of my digital files and proposals and forms and tax exempt forms and 50, everything's digital there. I record everything in there
Right.
digitally. But if I'm jotting down notes and I want to get things off my mind, I'm writing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I've transitioned to writing on my iPad.
yeah.
And it's cool because it syncs with my phone so I can see everything, but I have to write to remember. If I
I
type stuff, I
yeah.
don't remember it.
I would agree with that sentiment.
Yeah.
I'm very much so. I'm the same way. If I write it down, I recall it better.
So the last question is, what time of day do you get your best work done?
What time of day do I get my best work done? That is a very good question. Um, you know what? I probably really hit my stride from like 9 to 1 o'clock in the morning. I run through here. I turn the lights on. I wake up at 4:45 every day, almost every day without fail. And I get here. I get the coffee pot going for my group, for my guys. I'll get the lights on out in the warehouse, and I'll get my music going, or have my record player back here that I'll get some tunes going, just kind of get the morning going, get the morning creative juices flowing, and I'll walk around and say, "Hey, how's your morning?" Just kind of greet it. I'm really big on team approach and kind of a instructional leadership coach. It's kind of how I like to roll. And
Yeah.
so by the time I actually sit down and actually get any real work done, I'm sure my administrators would kill me for saying this, but by the time I actually get any tangible work done via emails or any construction notes I have to catch up on, it's about 9 o'clock, and I'm in here sipping on my coffee and going. And then by one, which we're approaching, I'll get out into a couple buildings and check on this and that. But I would say not from that 9 to 1 bandwidth that's where I'm in my groove. So
So I know that listeners can't see this, but in the background, is that a real record player, like console?
oh yeah, that is so. One of the questions you had for me earlier was name something on LinkedIn that people would know about me. What are your hobbies and interests? I like restoring things, and there's really no end to the things that I like restoring. I've restored old cars, vintage cars, an old Impala I restored, 62 Impala that I restored, um, antique radios. That is a 1950s Guild New Englander. It's, if you peel the back open, it's all tube chassis, lights, diodes, incandescent bulbs in it, and it has a record player on it, and it really works, and it's really neat. I have a couple of antique radios at home, like from the 30s, that I've tinkered with and got them working, and kind of restored those and made them new again. Um, Lawnmowers, old tractors. I told you earlier, college wasn't for me. I like to work with my hands and just kind of tinker and mess around with things. So yeah, that's it's a 50s 1950s roll top desk, and so it actually closes down and it looks like an old roll top desk, and when you open it up, it's like a transformer. It turns into a stereo.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I get it.
Uh,
It's a nice conversation piece. It gets people going.
well, you talk about college, like I got an degree in architecture, but I did that because I like making things.
Mhm.
So I'm like you, I'm always tinkering with something, but right now it's 3D printing, and then I'm using my 3D printer to build a CNC, like a little hobby size CNC machine. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing right now.
nice, nice. Yeah, I'm too old to play ball anymore, and I don't. I don't. It hurts now when I slide into bases and things like that. So I just it's like I'll just I'll just continue to increase the level of arthritis I have in my hands and beat on things and work on things until I can get them working again. So it is
Well,
what it
that's super cool.
was. Yeah, for sure.
Well, Josh, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. If
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me on my there's a link on the St. Charles City of St. Charles School District website. My email address is located on there. It is jschaffer@stcharlessd.org.
Well, fantastic. Hey, I've really enjoyed our talk. So,
Yeah, I have too. Thanks for inviting me to
really
hang
appreciate
out
it.
with you. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Yep. Thank you.